Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walk of Shame for UFC Philadelphia, aka UFC, on ESPN 2, or I guess what's the other name? UFC Fight Night, Barboza versus Gaethje, whatever. These names are really confusing. But anyway, we just saw Edson Barboza get his lights put out by Justin Gaethje in the first round. I mean, that fight was just as violent as we thought it was going to be. I mean, to have that much action happen in such a short span of time, I mean that was nuts. That was a lot of activity for a very, very short period of time. So in this short span of time, we saw Justin Gaethje and Edson Barboza literally just stand in front of each other and exchange leg kicks. Just stand there for the first about 30 seconds or so, leg kick each other a few times, then exchange a few punches. Like it was literally 1-for-1 until they just kind of got into it, I guess, and they started executing their game plans. I mean, this fight went a lot faster than I thought it would. Shout out to Matt Hunter of Mixed Combat Radio in the chat, calling this the 2019 Diaz versus Daly. Hey, I like that comparison. I like that comparison. I still would put, for one round fights, I still would put Diaz Daly as the best out of the bunch. Pat Barry, Czech Congo is going to be somewhere in that conversation. But Gaethje and Barboza, man, was just like, I just tweeted this out. It was like a compressed zip file of violence. Like if you could just compact all the violence that we didn't experience throughout the night, because this, quite frankly, was not the most action-packed card and that I can remember as of late. It's like all the violence that didn't happen earlier got shoved into this one fight, into this one, microcosm of time. Forgive me for a second. I did not catch the official time. Let me look at that, see if that was updated yet. Yeah, but either way, man, crazy stuff from there. Like, I just thought this fight was going to play on a little bit longer, because I would have assumed that. I mean, we've seen Gaethje and Barboza take a lot of damage in some fights. Like, those two have been through wars. I don't even have to run down all of Justin Gaethje's resume as far as wars go. But Edson Barboza, man, we tend to forget that. Oh yeah, thanks Jay in the Slack chat who just dropped me. It was 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the first round, so right at the halfway point is when the finish happened. So, I mean, we've seen Barboza absorb so much punishment, man. Let's not forget that Khabib Nurmagomedov fight where he was decimated in so many ways. That was one of the most lopsided fights to ever go to decision. The Kevin Lee fight, same thing. Aside from that one wheel kick that landed on Lee, I think it was in the fourth round, and sent him stumbling a little bit. Aside from that, like, he got dominated. He got taken down. He got pummeled for an extended period of time. Then think about the Tony Ferguson fight, the damage that he took in that. Like, that was a war. Edson Barboza is no stranger to a war. I mean, even the Dan Hooker fight, which was one of the Sherdog contenders for a beatdown of the year. I don't think that won, but I know it was at least nominated. One of the contenders for beatdown of the year. But he took some damage against Dan Hooker. Like, Barboza is no stranger to getting hit upside the head. He's never shied away from that. So I thought that we'd see these two have kind of a war of attrition, and what would end up winning it out for Justin Gaethje is the fact that he just moves forward, and Edson Barboza, being such a kick-friendly guy, a guy who's all about his kicks for his offense, would have trouble trying to get powerful and decent kicks off while he's on his back foot. And we saw that in the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight. Like, he just kept on his back foot and really had a hard time trying to get any real effective kicks off. And it didn't play out long enough to see that. It really didn't. I mean, we saw Barboza backing up. We saw him against the fence, kind of sidestepping, when guys get against that cage and they sidestep to evade, but it's not really evasion, because it doesn't take much for the guy charging towards you to continue to keep you up against that fence. Like, when you just move against the fence and don't angle out. We saw him do that, and that's what led to his downfall. So I guess in some kind of way, that is a symptom of the same illness, maybe, if you want to think of it that way. But man, Oh, so what do you do next with these guys? Like Justin Gaethje is, oh man, this dude is all action, all action. Like, yeah, he had those losses to Poirier and Eddie Alvarez, and I can understand if you want to bump him out of some of the title talk right now because those losses were so recent. But flooring James Vick like he did in an easy knockout of the year contender last year. Um, I mean, I'm feeling Jay's suggestion here for a Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje fight. I like that. The only thing is I don't want to put that on Tony Ferguson just yet because he has bigger issues than what's going on in the UFC right now. So if we can assume Tony Ferguson is good to go and he's healthy from a mental standpoint and he's able to compete safely, then okay, let's make that fight happen. If not, man, if I'm Justin Gaethje, man, give me that McGregor fight. Give me that. Why not? Why not? What do you have to lose in that? Really, what do you have to lose? I just don't see where you can go wrong with that fight right now. Matt Hunter in the chat suggesting either Aldo, if Aldo moves up to 155, which I mean, Aldo against anybody at 155, man, sign me up, sign me all the way up. And then he's also saying no one at lightweight makes sense right now unless he waits for the Cowboy and Al Iaquinta winner. That's a good one too. I mean, that's a really good fight. And considering that he called out the UFC for their favorable treatment of Cowboy Cerrone in the rankings, that would make a lot of sense. But as of would McGregor take that fight? I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, he spent a lot of time on Twitter. I mean, granted, he's quote unquote retired now, but I think we all can rest assured that that's bullshit. And that's just talk to get some more money in negotiations or whatever. But I mean, he spent a fair amount of time in the last several months or so calling out anybody who's even remotely close to his weight class to fight. He teased some featherweight fights. He was ready to fight everybody at lightweight. He was challenging Cerrone. He was, agreeing to fight Nate Diaz at 185. He was challenging Anderson Silva. So why he wouldn't fight a Justin Gaethje, I don't know. I mean, you're talking about like a wet dream of just beat 'em up fights to see a striker as accurate. Granted, this is Conor McGregor at his best, not the version that we saw against Khabib Nurmagomedov, but a Conor McGregor that is at his best and at his sharpest. And this guy is like ungodly accurate, has ridiculous power. And then you put him up against the unmovable object of Justin Gaethje, who just continues barreling forward and charging at you. And McGregor has trouble with pressure fighters. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. That fight, please. That would be my number one fight that I'd like to see. I wouldn't be mad at Anthony Pettis getting his wish as well. I mean, Pettis, last week, he called out the winner of this main event. And he already, has history with Barboza, and he lost a decision to him a few years back. But Gaethje and Pettis make some sense too, man. There's lightweight is spoiled with riches right now. It is spoiled with riches. Let that be an example. Like this was as heavily loved as these two names are, Edson Barboza and Justin Gaethje. This is essentially like when you look at the title picture of lightweight. This was almost a throwaway fight. These are the leftovers of the lightweight title picture, and you got that. But thank God for lightweight. Lightweight is just nuts right now. I got a suggestion for Diaz versus Gaethje too. Hey, I'm with that as well, man. I'm with that as well. It's just Diaz. Diaz will fight when he wants to fight. Like I don't even want to wrap my mind around a Nate Diaz fight until Nate Diaz stops tweeting and starts fighting again. So. That's how I feel about that one. But man, oh man, we had a very, very, very good main event there for as little as it lasted. And quite frankly, I don't want to talk about a whole lot else of this card. This card overall was not the business. I was not not very pleased by it, but we'll go ahead and run down some of these results. Jack Hermanson took out David Branch in very short fashion in less than a minute, 49 seconds into round 1 with a guillotine choke. I mean, it's really not a whole lot to analyze right here. I mean, the fight was over that fast. It was like a wild scramble that Branch just kind of fell into that choke, and that was it. So, yeah, that's just kind of what it is, man. If you're David Branch, I'm thinking about a move up to 205 at this point. We're seeing one of his previous opponents, Luke Rockhold, move up to light heavyweight now. He's clearly out of title contention in middleweight and lightweight. Light heavyweight is a lot more open. So why not do that? He was a light heavyweight champion in World Series of Fighting, so he can compete at a very high level at that weight. So why not do that? And he doesn't have, I wouldn't think he has much time left as an active fighter. I think he's 37, 38 now, and he's been fighting for a while. So if you're David Branch, close out the chapter at light heavyweight will be my suggestion. All right, let's see here. Oh yeah, good observation by Matt. Also, that he's knocked out the guy who John Jones is fighting next. Yeah, beautiful observation. That's exactly what's happening. But yeah, I can't really give a whole lot of a whole lot more talk to this fight. It's just not a lot to talk about. Let's see. Jay is also in my ear. Let me know. Rocky Marciano in the Sherdog forum is asking, is Justin Gaethje the lightweight Vanderlei? Yeah, why not? Like, what other comparison can you give to him? Of course, from a pure technical standpoint, he does a lot of things different than Vanderlei Silva. Does a whole lot of things different than Vanderlei Silva. Vanderlei Silva was not, leg kicking you in close range. He just kind of swarmed on you more than anything else. I mean, Justin Gaethje will swarm on you, but he does it in a much more methodical way. It looks like it's almost like he knows exactly what sort of monster he really is, and he doesn't fight it. He just doesn't fight that instinct. Vanderlei Silva just almost was like in a berserker rage every time, and I don't think Justin Gaethje has that berserker rage necessarily. It's like a calm, quiet, just almost sociopathic acceptance of how violent and how destructive that man is. Oh, God bless him for it. What a treasure that we have in Justin Gaethje. And yes, I'm sipping my whiskey. Been sipping my whiskey real heavy, man. This was not big fan of a lot of the fights this evening, but anyway, so until more questions come up about any of these fights, I'll just run down quick thoughts with some of these results here. Let's see. Okay, so Josh Emmett versus Michael Johnson. Josh Emmett with a third round knockout with an overhand right at 4 minutes and 14 seconds into the final round. Like, wow. Like, with less than a minute left, he turned it on. According to my scorecard and Cole Shelton of Sherdog, we and Adam Martin, Cole Shelton and Adam Martin were the scorekeepers for Sherdog.com for this event. And at least if I'm remembering this correctly, I know myself and Cole, we had Michael Johnson up 2 rounds to none going into the third, if I'm remembering that correctly. If not, sorry. But Michael Johnson was winning that fight. I think in the first round, he didn't really. I don't remember him really getting touched. I don't think he took any real punches. I think he maintained distance very well. And then you see in that second round, he starts picking Emmet apart, and Emmet was getting visibly frustrated and kind of lunging in haphazardly, getting caught on the way in, getting caught on the way out. And you see Michael Johnson's hand speed just wreaking havoc. And he was really, really getting in his business, man. When that third round started, I don't know what the coaches said to Josh Emmett in the corner. They probably did let him know that time was of the essence, and he was very well losing that fight. So it was time to go for broke. And man, did he ever. The feints for the takedowns into the overhand strikes and just changing levels and keeping Johnson guessing. I mean, it was textbook. It was textbook. So Emmet fakes for that takedown. Johnson drops a hand, anticipating like he might have to sprawl out or get an underhook or something, and that overhand just comes right over the top and cracks him, puts him to sleep. Man, that's a big deal to floor Michael Johnson like that. That's a big deal. Like, you look at some of the names that he has taken out. Michael Johnson has damn near killed Dustin Poirier. Michael Johnson beat Edson Barboza, was the last man to beat Tony Ferguson. You're talking about a guy who had his fight IQ match his skill level and his athletic ability. You're talking about a champion at lightweight. And some of the best guys in the division were not able to give him any real work. And Josh Emmett at featherweight puts him to sleep. It says a lot, man. It says a whole lot. And I was kind of shocked by this result, simply because, like, we saw what this fight was supposed to look like in those first 2 rounds. That's what it was supposed to look like. It was supposed to be Michael Johnson being better in just a little better in every area. That's what we saw. Just fast enough to frustrate him, just powerful enough to keep him from getting reckless coming in, just good enough with his wrestling to stay on his feet. Like Michael Johnson was just slightly better in every category, and with a lot more hand speed. So you think, like, man, that's the way it should happen. But man, that's why they fight. That's why they fight. So Josh Emmett with a very, very, very nice setup to earn a come from behind victory right there. So that was a good one to kind of wake up the masses there. Let's see what else we got. Michelle Waterson versus Karolina Kovitch. Michelle Waterson wins a unanimous decision. I like every fight but the main event of the main card. I picked this fight incorrectly. And I'm glad that it came out like this, because it's good to see Michelle Waterson be able to put everything together so nicely. When you're fighting Karolina Kovitch, this is somebody who has a very like meat and potato style, and Kovitch is not going to get really flashy. She's not going to overwhelm you in one area or the other, but she is going to shut you down in a lot of ways. She's going to shut you down. She's going to be very consistent in coming forward and trying to stay in your face and giving you something. It may not be the most effective sometimes what she does, but she's going to give you something to think about every single time out. And Michelle Waterson, I thought, especially with her kick-heavy offense, similar to what my feelings about Barboza against Gaethje. Like, when you are such a reliant person on your kicks, and someone keeps you on the back pedal, very hard to get those kicks off. But Michelle Waterson was able to blend those in with the stand switches that were confusing Karolina. With, like, her counter wrestling was great. Offensive wrestling was great. There were so many good things that she was doing. And I was honestly very surprised that Kovitch was visibly confused by a lot of the stance switching. Kovitch, one thing about her, like, when I say she's undeterred, like, she just does what she does, and she doesn't waver really. A stance switch is not something I thought would really give her that much trouble. I really didn't, because no matter what, she's going to approach things almost the identical way. And I just thought, stance switch happens, she's going to keep walking you down. She's going to keep on at it and keep on at it. And yeah, maybe Waterson is switching stances to southpaw, opens up that rear hand down the middle or whatever, or opens up a body kick or something like that. Yeah, there's that. But Karolina normally doesn't care about stuff like that. She just keeps coming at you and jams you up, and you have a hard time getting anything like that off. But I mean, at this point now, with Michelle Waterson, kind of like, what do you do with her next? I'm not mad at her getting a title shot next. Not mad at that at all. I mean, the UFC is obviously very much behind her. This fight was not a co-main event. It was not the main event, yet it got some sort of feature on ESPN leading up to it. Michelle Waterson has been a heavy focus on the UFC's social media for this fight week as well, and even the commentary, I think, was heavily biased in her favor. And I think that was something that kind of plagued the night, was biased commentary. But yeah, I think the UFC clearly has high hopes for Michelle Waterson and what she can do. I mean, she kind of follows the format that the UFC likes in female fighters. She's a very good looking woman. And she's got a fan friendly style as far as her striking goes. She can do some flashy kicks, and she's a very nice person, and she's very personable and easy to talk to, and as a good interview and whatnot. So yeah, it makes sense that the UFC wants to get behind her, and I think you can do a Michelle Waterson fight for the title against the winner of who's Andrade fighting Rose Namajunas. So I know that she has a history with with Rose Namajunas, and I really wonder what that fight would look like now. I mean, she lost that fight in 2017 by rear naked choke, but I wonder if that fight is the same. I do, and it wasn't that long ago, but this was a lot of growth from Rose Namajunas. This was a whole lot of growth from her. This was an evolution from Michelle Waterson, like how she was able to progress in her style and progress in how she handled adversity, progress in how she did her wrestling transitions and everything. Like that was definitely a step up. This was Karate Hottie 2.0. And I'm very curious what that looks like against the winner of Rose Namajunas and Andrade in UFC 237, I believe. So that should be very interesting. If not her, there are other ladies that she can face, of course. But I just have a feeling that this is going to go to a title shot for her. And, with the name that she has, I assume this would shoot her up in the rankings significantly, probably more so than she might deserve from it. Kovitch, as of now, is ranked 6. Waterson at 9, according to the UFC. So, I would at least assume Waterson gets up to 7, maybe 6, and maybe they just swap them. But yeah, I like what Michelle Waterson was able to do, and I'm looking forward to, seeing more of her. Even though this fight wasn't exactly the excitement that I think some people anticipated. I didn't think this fight would turn out into a barn burner or anything, but still very good on her to get that result. So let's move on from there. Let's see what we got. What we got next? Paul Craig versus Kennedy in Nchukwu. I know I butchered that name. So sorry. This fight was dreadful up until when it wasn't. This was a dreadful fight. Like this was like just really bad MMA. Like, okay, so you see a high level, like a really good athlete in Kennedy, a guy who's very athletically gifted, but still extraordinarily green, like extraordinarily green. A guy who's skill wise, it still has a long way to go. I mean, no shock. I mean, this was only his 7th professional fight, so we can't be too hard on him in that sense. But Paul Craig, who's not necessarily the greatest athlete in the light heavyweight division, it really felt like an athlete versus a tactical fighter who happens to not be very athletic. That really is what it appeared to be to me, and in the end, the more technical guy won. But I think it was more so because Kennedy was making rookie mistakes. Like when this guy is continually trying to pull you in guard, he is trying to lock you the entire time. When you have some success on the feet, when you have the opportunity to get away from him from these ground positions, you get away from him. You just get away from him, and that's that. You do not fall back into this guy's guard. You do not stay there. You do not lay on him, even if it's you trying to take his back or anything. Like, you just get away from that dangerous position. And I think that's a lesson that Kennedy will learn in the future. Like that's a very rookie mistake, to just stay where you don't belong. And we saw the same thing with Danny Roberts last week or the week before, to have success on the feet, or to at least not be in danger on the feet, and then decide to go into this guy's preferred realm because you just decided to do it. I mean, at that time, I had Kennedy winning both rounds. I know it was very close because it was a largely inactive fight, and I'm not really mad at anybody's scorecard in that if they differ with me. But from my eyes, Kennedy had that fight won until he decided it was time to, play into the grappling game that Craig was clearly trying to set up. So Paul Craig probably saved his job here. And as far as Kennedy, I mean, a young guy, very new in his career. This loss isn't going to break him. This loss probably make him better. Probably push his training to a different level. Probably drill that technique more so than relying simply on the fact of you being a better athlete, because there's a certain point where that just falls off. Like if you put, the early success that he had in that fight, if you put that version of him against some of the more skilled guys at at 205, you're not going to have that good result. You're not, because they're very good athletes too. So there is a line where athleticism just stops being something that you should be heavily relying on. And I think he has found that wall tonight. So this is something that should make him better in the long run. So, all right, let's move on from that. Sadek Youssef with a decision win over Shaman Marias. I really was trying to keep hometown bias out of it. Sadek Youssef is a guy who lives, Nigerian-born guy, but he lives in the Washington, D.C. area. So always got a soft spot for the DMV guys. But not a whole lot to say about this one, man. I thought Marias would pull this out because he is definitely the more seasoned guy. And despite their number of fights being roughly similar, Youssef is still very, very green. He's still very raw. And I thought Marias had just enough experience and has seen just enough different looks to give him some sort of challenges that would be a little bit too much for Youssef at this stage. But hey, looks like I was wrong. And I'm not mad that I was wrong on that, because Youssef is a potential star in the making. I mean, you're talking about a personality that you can sell, talking about a fight style that you can sell. And he's also part of this wave of African-born fighters that are just taking over the UFC right now. And they are doing some very, very great things in the cage. So he is coming up at just the right time. So very looking forward to what's next for Sadek Youssef. All right, let's move on from that. Oh, we got a comment from Rev in the chat. They give Waterson a title shot over Suarez after she wins. I'll be pissed. I'm not mad at that, man. I'm not mad at that at all. Suarez definitely is somebody we need to be talking about as someone that should be challenging for the title. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. She has certainly earned that right. But we see how heavily the UFC favors Michelle Waterson. Like Michelle Waterson she just fits that bill that they like, and they've got a lot of personality behind that woman, a lot of personality with her, with the family angle that you can market. Like they got her and her daughter all over the stuff. She's talking about her mom, tough loving her coaching and stuff for fights, and like Michelle Waterson's story will sell. It will sell, and that's that. It's just that simple. It will sell. And I think maybe you'll find a more aesthetically pleasing fight with her because she's so reliant on her kicks, and you have that karate hottie nickname. You got the expectation of something crazy happening. Suarez is just going to take you down and beat you to death, essentially. And as effective as that is, and as good as Suarez is, I would not be shocked at all if she leapfrogged Suarez. And then you think too, Waterson's been around for a long time. I'm not mad about the vet getting it over the newer person. I'm not mad about that. Waterson's been around for a long time, man. So go and give her a title shot while you can. Don't miss the boat on that while it's presented. I got a suggestion here from Jay, who says Michelle Waterson versus Weili Zhang as a title eliminator. I'm not mad at that fight. I think that's a great fight. but I wouldn't put Zhang in a title eliminator just yet. I would give Zhang like 2 more before we start talking title shot. And I know there is an incentive for the UFC to rush her as well, because she's a Chinese fighter and they're really trying to make a push into that market. And they got that new performance institute that's being built there now. So they're really trying to get some names for the Chinese market. And yeah, maybe that's going to take precedent over, some of the other names in the division. Excuse me. But if it's up to me, I don't put them in a title eliminator against each other. I give Weili at least 1 more before we start saying this one's for the title. That's my thoughts on that one. So, all right, let's move on. What we got? Marina Rodriguez versus Jessica Aguilar. Eesh, what a brutal beating that Jessica Aguilar endured. Well, this fight was strange. So, like, as far as the scorecards go, there were some really stupid ass scorecards tonight. But this one, I was kind of shocked, man, that there wasn't as much disparity in the cards as there could have been. So I did see a case for, so of course there was a point deduction against Rodriguez in the first round. So you think, okay, that's a 9-9 round at best for her. Well, I did see a decent case for Jessica Aguilar winning that first round. So then you think, okay, you start off with a 10-8 for Jessica Aguilar. The second round, I scored it a 10-9 for Rodriguez, but I saw some people out there with 10-8s, and I'm not mad at that. So then maybe a 10-8 for Rodriguez, and then maybe a 10-8 for her in the third round. Like, these were some very... These scorecards were going to be all over the place. They were going to be all over the place. But they just didn't have the near confusing level of disparity that I would have assumed by looking at social media. Social media did confuse the hell out of me looking at this. But I was pretty conservative with my scoring for this fight. But you had it 9-9 to start, 10-9 Rodriguez, and then I believe the last round I gave it a 10-9 as well, or maybe a 10-8, whatever. And that was brutal, man. That was really brutal. And yeah, there was I saw some young lady that was on Twitter complaining about the legality of mixed martial arts. She's like, how can people watch this? Blah 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 blah. Yeah, change the fucking channel. It's that simple. Change the channel. It's not for everybody. This sport is not for everybody. Every so often, there will be a fight that comes on that reminds you, if you are not a lover of fights, this ain't for you. And that is fine. Just shut the hell up. That's all I'm saying. Just shut the hell up. All right. So, Mike is saying, great night of fights. That was a brutal beating. That fight was a brutal beating. I would disagree with you on saying it was a great night of fights. I personally did not enjoy a lot of these fights. Maybe I was just irritable. I don't know, man. Maybe I was. I shouldn't have been, because I had one of my 2 cheat meals for the week. I had some buffalo wings and a bacon cheeseburger, and I've been drinking my whiskey. And so I should be happy. But hey, man, I just did not like a lot of the fights. I thought the night lacked a lot of action. It just didn't. It just, maybe we're at event fatigue right now. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, we've been running with a UFC fight every week for how many consecutive weeks now? I think we're off from one next week, but how many consecutive weeks? It's a lot. It's a lot going on. It's a lot to keep up with. And I'm not complaining in that, I'm tired of watching fights, or I'm tired of writing about fights. Absolutely not. I love what I do with a passion. I fully invest myself in covering the sport of mixed martial arts. I love it. Can't imagine my life without it. So that's, so that's that. But man, in the sense that there's just so much filler, because there's so many fights that aren't good fights, that just don't belong, on a UFC offering. They just don't belong there. Like Paul Craig and versus Kennedy, that was not a UFC caliber fight. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That just wasn't. There's stuff here that just doesn't belong on ESPN. It just doesn't. And it's no knock on these people, but you're having this concentration of fights, and for what? For what? Like, it's just a bunch of names. It's hard to keep track of, but hey, we do it because we love it. So that's that. Let's see what is next. Desmond Green and Ross Pearson. Wow, Desmond Green put that work in on Pearson. Some good counter punches that set up the finishing sequence right there. Desmond Green with his first finish since like 2015 or something like that. Definitely his first finish in the UFC. So congratulations to him. And Ross Pearson, man. Ross Pearson has been around for a long time, bro. He has been around for a long time. See, when was his first professional fight? Was in 2004. This man's been fighting since 2004. Are you kidding me? This guy's been around for 15 years. He was on The Ultimate Fighter when it was good. He was a member of the UFC roster, like in the Spike TV era, to then move on to the Fox era. He fought on UFC on Fuel. Okay, like that's how far back this guy dates. Yeah, man, you just gotta wonder, man, is it time to let it go? Is it time to let it go, man? He's been in his UFC debut was like 10 years ago. And he was fighting 5 years before that. It might just be time to call it quits, man. This is a dude who has endured a lot of punishment over his career as well. A lot of punishment. And at what point is it worth it? And of course, I can't sit here and declare a man's career over. I shouldn't be doing that. Should not be doing that. But I'm gonna do it anyway because he's taking a lot of punishment. I think if you care about Ross Pearson at this point, sit him down, have a talk with him, and determine what his goals are. This is a guy who's content with just kind of filling out a prelim card here and there, taking on some action fights, and 50-50 whoever wins, so be it. But hey, like Jay just pointed out to me, like he's 3-7 in his last 10. This isn't going anywhere. He's bounced around in the weight classes too. Like it's not really going anywhere, unfortunately. So if I'm Ross Pearson, I'm thinking long and hard about what my next move is. But Desmond Green, though, very good for him to get his first finish on the name of a guy as respected as Ross Pearson, who's proven himself to be as dangerous as Ross Pearson. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. So he has kind of breathed some life into his career that did not exist before. Oh, shout out to my man Jason Hartley, actually my boss at MMA On Point. What's up, Jason? He says, personally really enjoyed the main card. Undercard was a bit weak for sure, though. Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I mean, the main card had its burst of action. You had the sudden Josh Emmett knockout. You had, of course, Gaethje and Barboza. You had the quick finish of David Branch by Hermanson. So yeah, maybe by the time we got to the main card, I was just too grumpy. That shit happen, man. You know how I am. I get like that sometimes. But yeah, man, I just main card had its moments. It just like the Waterson Kovitch fight started moving really slow, picked up in a couple spots, and even the Johnson Emmet fight, despite the knockout, like that fight leading up to was really, really sluggish to start and not the most enjoyable to watch. But but this happens. Like this is the problem with live sports. We love the sport, but when these guys are competing, it's not always going to be the most entertaining thing in the world. And that's just the reality of it. The thing is, when you have back-to-back fights, it's harder to hide that. It's harder to mask that. It's harder to configure the matchups in a way that minimize that risk. Because at this point, with the pace of the fights that they're putting on, like you just got to put people who are healthy and available in there. and rankings and the title picture and if it makes sense or not is at this point, those are really secondary considerations. It's just a matter of who's available. Like, you got to fill these cards out. They've got what, like, we're going on what, like 40 something events, I think, for this year. You just need bodies. You're doing 40 something events with what, anywhere from 10 to 13 fights on the card. So that's just a lot of bodies. As Jay's pointed out, this is our 9th UFC event in a row. At a certain point, the product's just not going to look as good. It's just not. There's just not enough people. It's that simple. Yeah. So, maybe I'll concede that I can be a bit of a grumpy dude. My homie Jason Burgos, who actually is on the ground right now in Philly for SureDog.com. So check out SureDog.com for his coverage. He calls me like the grumpy old man. I'll take it. That's pretty accurate, but I think it's well warranted. All right, so let's see. Outside of that, the just a quick rundown of what's left on the card. Kevin Aguilar defeats Enrique Barzola by unanimous decision. I thought it was a pretty clear-cut win for Aguilar. If you listen to the commentary, like with all your attention, probably would have thought Barzola was doing a lot better than he was. I thought Barzola won the last round, but aside from that, I think Aguilar was just controlling every bit of it. And it was when Barzola knew he was down that he kind of forced the issue and was able to get some success in that last round, but it was too little too late. Split decision win for Kevin Holland against Gerald Meerschaert. I'm sure I screwed that up. This was I don't really know what to say about this fight. This was an interesting fight. I mean, Kevin Holland is definitely one of those guys who is such a good athlete that probably could benefit from like toning down the reliance on the athleticism in favor of technical work, because he was very close to giving that fight away several times and just making kind of weird decisions. And, when you decide that you're, once again, you're going to start grappling with a guy whose best success has been grappling with you, and you're sticking your neck out in the process, and you got caught up in a near guillotine finish. No surprise there. Those are mistakes that should not be made. And I think with nearing his 20th fight in his career, I think these are sort of the things that should be ironed out by now. I like the upside of Kevin Holland a whole lot. He's got the personality. Like I said, he's got the athleticism. You put it together skill-wise, it'd be a very dangerous package right there. And you saw what he was able to do on short notice against a terrifying man in Thiago Santos, and was able to neutralize him in spots and have some fleeting moments of success there. So Kevin Holland is a guy to watch for, but the fight IQ things, like those decisions, you got to be better, man. You got to be better in those moments. You can't go in there and fall neck first into a guy like Gerald Meerschaert, especially when you are having much better success standing up against him. I wouldn't advise that. So got some news for you, savages, freaks, and maniacs out there. The homie Jay has dropped this little nugget for me about the post-fight bonuses. Fight of the night goes to Edson Barboza versus Justin Gaethje, and performance bonuses go to Paul Craig and Hermanson as well. So Josh Emmett empty-handed again. Man, and he even asked, what I hate to see when a fighter like begs for that bonus. Man, I hate to see that. I hope the UFC is still doing those locker room bonuses and they're going to slide him a little extra because he definitely deserves it with that performance. And especially with him being out for a year, he sympathized with a guy who came that close to defeat, won it in stunning fashion, and still gets looked over. Granted, he got looked over for another guy who won it in stunning fashion when he was down. And another guy who just simply bulldozed a guy in stunning fashion. And fight of the night, no surprise that it went to Barboza versus Gaethje. Let's see what else we got. Let's see. Another comment from the homie Jason. We'd love to see more of these fighters utilized on Fight Pass, shorter/less TV cards with more meaningful fights. Exactly. That is exactly the sort of thinking that I think that should be going on if you are in charge of the UFC at this point. If you're concerned with the entertainment value of your product, um, you've got too many fights. My suggestion would be to reduce the number of fights per card. Instead of having a 13 or 12 fight card, make it a 10 fight at the most. Instead of a 6 fight main card, make it a 4 for some of the free TV offerings or the ESPN Plus offerings. Pay-per-view, of course, get more bang for your buck. That makes sense, but there has to be some sort of concession made to acknowledge the fact that you are stretching these gentlemen and these ladies too far. And there used to be a point in time, and I know I wrote an article about this about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago at this point, about what does UFC caliber mean anymore. And when you're putting on this many fights, you need this many bodies. UFC caliber doesn't have the same ring to it that it used to. It doesn't. Like, some of these guys would not be in the UFC now if this were the same schedule that we had, say, 2010. They would prefer these guys to be more seasoned on the regionals and then bring them up to the big show where the UFC really means something. I think that would be good. So Jason, that's a fantastic idea. That's a really good idea. And then utilize Fight Pass more. Like, if you are not just the diehard of diehards, Fight Pass is essentially worthless to you. It works for me because I'm a media member. I do a lot of tape study, so I gotta watch the old library. I'll watch Invicta. I'll watch EBI sometimes. I'll watch, Island Fights or whatever other products are put on Fight Pass and Cage Warriors and stuff. But if you're not one of those guys, you're not a hardcore, you're not a guy who's getting paid off of this sport, why? Why are you doing it? Why are you, that would give some value to Fight Pass, especially now with, this whole ESPN, interwoven partnership with the UFC for the pay-per-views at this point. So anyway, let's see what else we got on the card. There's only a couple of more to talk about. Let's see. All right, Casey Kenny versus Ray Borg. Kenny with unanimous decision there. I had Kenny winning it. I believe it was a 30-27 scorecard on this. I just didn't get that. But it was a close fight. It was a very close fight. It's tough to see Ray Borg lose, man, with all he's been going through with his family and his son's illness and whatnot. Man, that sucks. Like, it's a guy you just want to see win, man. Just so his life circumstances might get a little boost, man. Just have more money in his pocket to help his ailing son. Man, I feel for that dude. And especially, like, imagine the chaos is going on in his head right now. He's worried about providing for his family while his son is sick and with this life-threatening condition. To miss weight and come in and then lose. But this is also at a time where, you're best at 125, but that division might be going away. And this uncertainty and this sadness, I think that's just surrounding Ray Borg right now. And, like, Jesus, man, I just wish that guy would get a break. Just really wish that guy would get a break. So shout out to Ray Borg, man. Casey Kenny, he fought a good fight. I mean, they both fought a very good fight. They fought a very good fight, and Kenny ended up winning a very, very hotly contested decision. Not mad at the judges for siding with Kenny. Excuse me. Marina Moroz wins a decision over Sabina Mazo. Not a whole lot to say about this fight. It happened. Alex Perez with a decision win over Mark De La Rosa. Yeah, same here. Yeah, those fights happen. So yeah, man. The main takeaway obviously is Justin Gaethje in that main event, what he was able to do. Sky's the limit for him now. relative to what else is going on in the lightweight division. So good place for him to be at this point, to be, 2 finishes removed from his 2 finished losses prior to that, with his continuing pile of bonus checks and a style that people want to see. And the top draw in the division, while he claims to be retired now, is just without an opponent. So if you can get Conor McGregor to sign on that dotted line, what an opportunity for Justin Gaethje. You get Anthony Pettis to sign on that dotted line, what an opportunity for Justin Gaethje. So got a post UFC question from the homie Jay. He just asked me, are you going to stay up and watch One Championship, A New Era, with 4 title fights, as well as Mighty Mouse and Eddie Alvarez? Jay, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to stay up. I can't make any promises to how successful this venture will be, but I'm going to try my damnedest. So what I'm going to do, I am going to write my post-fight column, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. I'm going to try to write that. Although part of me wants to wait until there's one card. Maybe I'll combine it with that and the Bellator fight from last night. But I want to get some words to paper down. I've got to write my script for MMA on Point that's due this week. So Jason, it's coming. You know how busy I get, and I can be slow sometimes. Every so often I get a little slow, but yeah, that's coming. So I got a lot of writing to do, but I do want to stay up to watch one. I'm hoping that I can pop this edible and watch it and just tweet some fun goodness. That's probably going to be the plan. We'll see if my wife lets me do that. But actually it'll be so late, she'll be asleep and she won't know. But she's in the other room right now. She probably can hear me, and I might have just put myself in trouble. So I'm going to try to stay up and watch one. Long story short, that's probably what I'm going to do. Let's see if we have any other. Jason just let me know in the chat that I am fired from MMA on Point. So I guess I don't have to write that script. So that's that. But anyway, I'm running out of content right now that is worth your ears and worth my time. So how about this? How about we wrap this up? And unless we have any more questions coming in, you guys have any other thoughts you want to share about UFC Philly, and we can go ahead and talk that out. If not, then I'm going to sign off in just a minute here and get some of this writing done. So going once, going twice, sold. All right. So thank you to everyone who participated in the chat. Thank you for everyone who is watching right now and not participating. Appreciate that. Everyone who is following along with my foolishness on Twitter for the event. Appreciate that as well. So if you are not already following me on Twitter, I suggest you do so at Ant Walker MMA. As far as other things, you can find my latest MMA on Point script that was converted into a video, just dropped a few days ago. It was about the 10 most embarrassing moments in MMA. So on this channel, I have a playlist for all of my MMA on Point videos, as well as the trenches, the Sherdog live chat I do with Jason Burgos, as well as my latest appearances on Collider Sports MMA Takedown podcast as well. So you can find a lot of my work here on the Walkout Network. But yeah, so Good, Bad, and the Ugly for UFC Philly will be coming up shortly. Ask Ant, the mailbag column just dropped this morning as well. And that will do it for the Walk of Shame for UFC Philadelphia. So you know what you got to do. You got to stay beautiful. You got to stay positive. And above all, through all the bullshit, you got to stay sexy. I will see you when I see you. Peace.